So I want to come to you guys again today and just talk about the radical left and just how unhinged they actually are. Some of you guys have probably heard about this story and seen this video from Andy No. It's absolutely gotten to the point of insanity now. When it comes to the left, I mean, there's a reason why not only is the political divide in this country getting wider and wider and wider, but more and more people every day refuse to identify with really either one of the political parties, and especially in the last 2 years, there's been large swaths of the population who have chosen to remove themselves from the left. They've chosen to remove themselves from being associated with people on the left. They've not moved. Politically speaking, they're exactly where they always were. But now they're being considered moderates or centrists. And some even, oh, well, you're right-wing now if you don't go along with the far left nut jobbery at this point, the insanity, the unhinged nature of these people. And you're talking about large swaths of the population who are left of center, and they no longer want to associate themselves with the Democrat Party or with the left or with progressivism because of how insane it's actually gotten. I mean, we've talked about this time and time again, practically every day. We have conversations of some insanity that the left is pulling. And sometimes it's politicians. The whole idea of completely 100% open borders, free citizenship to everybody, and if you're here illegally, oh, you get free health care. That's straight from politicians. Then there's just people on the left, and you can look to the two different groups of people on the left who are not politicians. There's your George Soros and your Bloombergs, your big-time billionaires funding all this stuff, and then there's your man on the street. They're your Antifa types, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. This took place at Mohawk College. Not sure exactly where that is, but I believe it's somewhere around Portland. And this is Antifa. This is Antifa taking part in, well, quite honestly, fascist terrorism. As I've spoken to you guys about before, these people fit the definition of terrorists. They fit the actual definition of terrorists. Antifa is a terrorist organization. There's no doubt about it. Even the FBI now, at this point, considers Antifa a terrorist organization. And they are proving it yet again right here, along with using fascistic techniques to partake in this behavior, to push for their political agenda. Let's take a look. It's only about 25 seconds long. Let's take a look at what happens when an elderly couple, a man and a woman with a walker, try to cross the street to get to the other side. It appears as though maybe they're going to the college for some reason. Maybe they're just trying to get to the other side of the street, same side that the college is on. It's hard to tell. You can't really hear anything other than the people yelling at this elderly couple who, and it's hard to tell, they're probably in their 70s or 80s. And this is the type of behavior that is now acceptable and almost expected and demanded if you are going to be a true leftist, Marxist, terrorist, fascist. Let's take a look and see what happens here real quick. Call them Nazis. Refusing to let them pass. They're trying to go around this way. They stay in front of them. They will not let this elderly couple pass. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know that this elderly couple did absolutely nothing to offend anyone. I mean, for all I know, as they started walking across the street, they were flipping everybody off. I have no idea. But either way, this is not how an adult, a rational human being responds to this type of situation. This is an elderly couple. You let them go on their way. More than likely, this elderly couple didn't do anything wrong, at least judging by what we've seen from Antifa in the past. Obviously, just looking at this video and who put it out, Andy No, I believe it's Andy No or Andy Go. I'm not sure. I apologize which letter is silent in his last name. He's somewhat of a leftist. He's slightly left of center in his politics, and he's been down there covering what's going on in Portland and the surrounding areas with Antifa. And he even got put in the hospital when a group attacked him. Of course, they were all masked and anonymous and attacked him with things like bike locks and put him in the hospital with a fractured skull, stitches, that kind of thing. And again, he's more left-leaning. He's left of center. He would probably agree with a lot of the same things they do, but they don't care because they've moved so far left. To them, he's now a right-winger, a conservative. Obviously, he's Asian, and I've heard them actually refer to him as a white supremacist. It's kind of insane. And when you look at the things that they're doing, when you look at, and it's not just Antifa. Antifa just seems to be the face of it. They seem to be the blunt fist that the progressive left is using right now for better or worse for their own agenda. That seems to be what's happening. But overall, the left has now turned into a terroristic fascist organization or political party, a Marxist terrorist fascistic organization. I mean, they are using fascistic language and techniques to push forward their agenda. They're using terroristic tactics. They fit the definition of terrorist. And we've talked about this before. I got a whole video on it. The definition of terrorist: a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in pursuit of political aims. That is all Antifa does. They use threats of violence. They use violence against civilians, yes, against law enforcement as well, but against other civilians primarily to push a political agenda for a political end goal. That's what they do. And look, like I said, I mean, Antifa is just the blunt fist that the left is using right now. But make no mistake, the far left-wing progressives, this is their attitude, this is their ideology. It's done so to push Marxism. It's done so to push for all the progressive agendas that we've talked about many, many times on this channel, going back to the early American progressive movement, whether it's Teddy Roosevelt, George Bernard Shaw, the lady that started Planned Parenthood, whose name escapes me at the moment. They pushed for agendas of more government control over your life, pushing for more Marxist programs and policies on a government level. They pushed for things like population control. They pushed for all kinds of things that, when it came right down to it, were just evil. And a lot of things that actually inspired people like Hitler to do some of the things they did, which is why the early American progressive movement died in the 1930s and went away for a few decades before it started to show its ugly head in the 1960s again. And this time, they started going after the Democrat Party. Unlike in the early American 20th century, they were primarily going after the Republican Party and trying to push progressivism in the Republican Party. And that just didn't work because people started to see it for what it really was. But that's the left now. That's the left. Make no mistake, at a time when people are being celebrated in Boston for on Boston taxpayer land, flying the Chinese communist flag out of respect for 70 years of communism, okay? In a place where we have politicians pushing for straight up communism. Some of the things that they push for are straight out of the Communist Manifesto. At a time when they want to give everything away free but take all your tax money, control all aspects of your life, push for more and more dead children via Planned Parenthood, while lecturing you about whether or not you should be able to own a gun, while being hypocritical even about that to the point that they say, well, there's no way you could fight off a government with your guns, so you don't need them anyway, but at the same time, your guns are so dangerous, they're weapons of war. So you shouldn't have them for that reason either. At a time when all this stuff is going on and the left is using their ham fist to go out there and use fascistic and terroristic techniques to bully civilians like this 80-some-odd-year-old elderly couple, you need to understand what's going on with the left. The left, right now, are communists. They're Marxists. They're terrorists. And they're fascists. And there's just no other way to put it.